Welcome back to Property Play. I'm your host, Elena Saradidis, and today I have Ravi Singh with me. He is, and I'm saying this on camera, he is one of my favorite real estate agents in the business right now.
Wow, thanks, Elena. The feeling is mutual. Thanks for having me.
You know, he was nice to me before I actually was a good real estate agent. Is that the best way to phrase it? Because
Sure.
we became friends before I actually was, I would say, solid in production. And you were always the type of person that would answer a call or like be very helpful. And that's a rarity that you find in real estate. Like people that are just willing to give you whatever information that you're looking for.
So it's really interesting. Rarity in real estate, I feel like, is something that people give me a lot of feedback on. Um, I think my job at the end of, this life is just to leave the place a little better than I got it. And if somebody asks me for anything and I can help, why would you not? You know what I mean? Like, I find people are too stuck into their own world and their own life and their own story sometimes. Like something as simple as walk down the road and smile. Why not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely get it. But yeah, you stuck out to me, and Nurse from Remax stood out to me.
You stuck out to me too because you were the first person. I didn't have the key at my lease. You wanted to show it at 12. The key was going to be there at 4. And you sent a Uber to pick up the key for me.
You know, I don't even remember that.
I remember that. It stood out. You're like, it's okay. I'm going to be there at 12. I'm going to have you an offer. I'm sending an Uber for the key. And I was like, who? What? Who's this? And we're talking about several years ago.
On brand for me, by the way.
Yes.
I sent an Uber for the keys on brand, but I actually, this is, again, note to self, I probably should check myself with my Ubering.
Yeah.
But like, imagine how many Ubers I've done in the span of that time to now that I can't even remember, but it's very on brand that I would Uber
There you go.
to get the key.
And I think one of the things that I've always believed in is be solution oriented, right? How many people in this industry are just confused and finding drama when what they need to really find is solutions, right? Oh, the interest rates, oh, et cetera, the market. Stop. Don't tell me you can't do transactions when 65,000 to 75,000 transactions are going to be done by somebody, right?
100%.
Sure, we don't have 110,000. Their deals are not falling out of the sky like how we had it in the past, but there's business to be had.
Yeah, and I also think that it's up to us, the agents, to change the narrative. It's not as bad as people think. There's options for you. And if you're a buyer, this is a great market to be looking at product. Like there is options. You can negotiate. You can add conditions. Like this is a luxury that in hot markets where everything's flying, we didn't have.
I have an agent that was on my team, and she used to complain that she was fighting these 42 bids on offer night. And I would remind everybody, I say, guys, like go out and strike a deal, right? And then the other thing is, I think right now we have to nurture deals. Like, for example, I'm selling a condo. These pastries are from that condo. Great condo, Bisha, Dari unit, split plan. But all kidding aside, I've been talking to a great guy from Sotheby's for 28 days now. We're putting it together. Oh, excuse me. Allergies.
No, I actually, when I had Dave on the show a couple weeks ago, we were chatting and I'm like, I'm harassing every agent that shows my listings, being like, we are going to be best friends and you are going to bring me an offer, and I'm the easiest agent to do a deal with, and you want to bring me an offer.
Yep.
And then I had agents call me being like, how did you get yours sold? Like there's like 8 in the building. Why is yours the one that sold and the other ones didn't? And I'm like, I followed up with everyone that showed my listings, like no one else.
Yep.
I'm like, you have a client, I have the listing, let's put this together. How will we make it work?
So in a softer market, 2008, I had a condo listed for sale for a guy who was relocating to LA and he was in LA, and he was in charge of all 32 dealerships across California, allotting them marketing budget based around production. And he says to me, it's like, Rav, I got 32 dealerships and 2 consecutively outpace everybody else. And he says, do you know why those 2, their production is way higher than the other 30? I said, no, tell me why. He says, follow up. He says, people, like, there's often this analogy in sales that talks about the iceberg. People focus on what they can see, which is that little piece of ice above the water, and they forget that giant piece of ice underneath the waves, right? Like right now we are in a business where Somebody shows the property on June 17th. Come on, Gord, let's do a deal. And you have to stay in touch with him until July. And you know what? He's got to follow up with his buyer who doesn't necessarily need to or have to buy this today, but is interested. And broker to broker, you need to broker a deal, right? Treb was set up around cooperation. Why is everybody gearing up for war?
100%. I also find, and I don't know if you're seeing this, you're way too nice. So I feel like you don't see this, but I find agents are meaner right now.
You know what? I give people a lot of benefit of the doubt. I find that people forget that the person you're talking to about a deal might be dealing with a kid who got in a school fight, might be dealing with, a marriage breaking down, might be dealing with a health issue, and often I think if people were asking me, say, Rav, what's your superpower? I say, I'm very good at tuning in to what the other person is going through. And there's a real estate coach. Her name's Suze Cummings. I don't know if you know Suze, but she's very like eccentric, like used to do these retreats and like
Mhm.
teepees where like people would like drop shrooms, like just eccentric, right? And I met her and she said, one of the best things you can have in this business is curiosity. She said she would go her neighborhood when she was selling was Bloor West Village, which was predominantly Eastern European. A lot of Croatian, Yugoslavian, and she was had no point of reference to that neighborhood. And whenever she'd go into people's homes, she would say, "Oh, so where do you live? Or where'd you come from?" They're like, "Oh, we came from, an obscure town just outside of, let's say, Prague." And she'd say, "Oh, do you have a map? I'd love to see where that is." And you could see the shoulders drop. You could see that they were being treated like a person of interest to the person there that was looking to transact. And she would pick up all of these listings, have some Russian vodka or whatever, and she'd walk out of there and she would have created connection. And to me, we are so, as an industry, focused on speed to lead, conversion, script, transaction. And the minute you say, tell me about yourself, and you actually are interested, the world's your oyster.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say so. What were we talking about before the cameras turned on?
Yeah.
That was so fascinating that we had to turn the cameras on faster.
So I think we were talking about uh, the business of lead generation. And I was just listening to a great talk with a agent I respect tremendously. And she's focused on the pillars of cold calling, door knocking, open house, expired listings, and flyer farming. And I focus on zero of those. And we both have very successful businesses. Um, I personally believe in the metric of fun. I believe in the metric of substance and human experience. So for me, I don't need to do more volume always. I just need to enjoy the process. I've done a little bit of cold calling. I've door knocked around open houses. I've just never really enjoyed it. And don't get me wrong, every agent should figure out what their own lead generation story is. But this is not a sprint. This is a very, very, very rewarding career if you figure out what works for you. And for me, like I find that if I am shaking hands and kissing babies, like I'm having a good time and people are generally attracted to the level of authority and expertise I have and the genuine interest in them seeing them doing well. And I've never had a soft year. I've never had a year where, business is not busy. I think people who put themselves into the assembly line of lead generation, conventional, amazing. That works and it's proven it works. It's just not for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we were talking before this started about what he gets his team to do, and I was talking about what I get my team to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I was basically saying that newer agents, when they get into the industry, there's a level of you have to hit the ground and do the stuff that, you might not love doing at the beginning to build yourself up to a point where you can pick and choose what you want to actually be doing. So I was telling him on my team door knocks. We don't door knock the conventional way. I'm not knocking on someone's door and being like, do you want to sell your home? Because I think if someone knocked on my door and said, do you want to sell my home? I'd be like,
No.
No,
Yeah.
please leave me alone.
Yeah.
I was just trying to make dinner. I was just trying to put my kids to bed. Like, why are you here? Like, please leave me alone.
Yep.
So we door knock in a different manner. It's in the area that we also live. I also own quite a bit of real estate in that pocket. And the door knocking is simple. It's we live in the neighborhood and we are tired of seeing people undersell their properties.
Beautiful.
And we don't want you to be one of those. So, because it hurts us. Like your value goes down, you sell for less, you got less money. My property is now worth less because I live in your neighborhood.
Yes.
So I think it's the last Sunday of every month, we do a neighborhood Q&A. It's drop in. You can just come and ask any questions you have regarding real estate. You need contractors. You need someone to come in and tell you what you should fix if you're planning to sell in the future. You want an idea about like how to figure out smart sizing when you're ready. You want anything that you need regarding real estate. You just want to know what's going on in the market right now. Come and chat. Coffee's on me. We're getting to know our neighbors and we're making sure that our neighborhood maintains its value.
Beautiful.
And that's it.
Where do you do that?
I'm going to get a target on my back. I am predominantly in Little Italy. It's where I own a lot of my
You
investment
do it at a
properties.
local coffee shop?
We do it at a local
Beautiful.
coffee shop in the neighborhood. And everyone knows me there. They're like the real estate agents here. Everyone knows my team there. Like it's a thing. But anytime it's a drop-in system, they just come in, ask me questions. And, if we end up working together, fantastic. But if we don't,
There's
no
value.
problem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's really interesting, but in my career, 2009 to 2012, I had a sort of a business partner. I'm now the godfather of her second daughter, and we're very close friends. Me and her husband own property together. We did townhouse flips on Beatrice, Crawford, Clinton, Manning. We still got the Manning triplex. All of those streets. So I know every single sort of Dundas to college, what it was doing and how we would do it. And same thing was kind of a program. It's like we underpin the basement, we put in a main floor powder room, we put in a second floor ensuite, and if we could do a back extension, great. And we always did them in 18 to 21 foot frontage, because you know what? It's technically 2-car garage. Right? Anything less than 18, it's
hard.
It's
Yeah.
very hard, But that was a great run. I love that neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's interesting because I think south of Bloor and north of Bloor, when you're over there, is two completely different neighborhoods too.
The pockets in the city change
Street to street.
street to street.
Yeah.
So like you could be on the north side of a certain street and it be drastically lower than the south side.
Yep.
And like people don't get it. And if you're not in the area, if you're not in the market, if you're not constantly there, you don't know the difference. Like I don't want to even name streets because they'll know this happened.
Yeah.
But there's a very prominent street in Toronto, and you know exactly which one I'm talking about. A house sold on it for almost $8 million. We're not talking about Rosedale or Moore Park or any of, no. Almost $8 million on a street in that neighborhood that we're discussing. There's no precedence for that to happen at all. There would never be an instance where that would happen. A client of mine bought an off market on the better side of the pocket for a little over $3 million that they needed to gut and renovate. But gut and renovate for $3 million versus buying it for $8 million.
Yes.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I sent my client a message. I was like, jump up and down. You were so welcome.
Yeah.
Like, have a great day.
Yep.
And it's the wrong side of the street. And they paid a premium to live there.
Yeah.
And they didn't know.
Yep. And sometimes it's the design forward renovation. People just fall in love.
But it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't. That was the wild part about it. There wasn't a design forward renovation. Another real estate agent that I know, he's like, oh, they actually called me in to look at the property before they listed it. And I told them, hey, there's some work to be done here. I think they got very lucky.
Excuse me.
They got very lucky. And like, kudos to the seller because they got their money. But I think they got very lucky that they got that price because I don't see a world where that is possible on the street. Even the nicest ones that have everything done maybe cap out at 5.5.
Imagine if you listed it, they would have got 10.
I'm like,
But you were happy about that, right?
I'm ecstatic. I was like, I'm like, you're increasing our value for the neighborhood. Fantastic. But also as a buyer, if I sat back and was like, wait, what are the comps on this street?
Why did I pay that?
Why did I pay that? And if I had that kind of money, is this the street I want to be on?
Yeah.
And there's a certain buyer that 100% they will be on that street, but not at that amount. And I think if they let it run its course and actually sit on the market, there's no way they would have gotten their price. I think they got very lucky.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's always going to be those offshoots. Like if we do a CMA, we'll take off the top and bottom. You know what I mean? If there's enough comparables, because it's not. I think I kind of like this. It's not a perfect science.
Mhm.
You know, ChatGPT or House Sigma is not going to tell you what Ellen is going to tell you about Grace Street or about Crawford, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's an important part of the utility that seasoned, or not even seasoned, but knowledgeable, value add agents bring to the table. And I'll tell you, when we go into listing presentations, very often I say, listen, you can do this on your own. You can also hire someone who will, spit shine the toilets and paint the whole house, and you can hire someone who will do drone and AI renderings and whatever, but you're not going to hire someone other than me. You're not no one out there is going to be Ravi Singh when it comes time to be Ravi Singh. And part of that is advising you, and part of that is working for you in terms of the nuance and the conversation. And in this market, I think every listing agent is really earning their stripes and earning their income. And that's why I think a lot of people aren't necessarily just going with their cousin or just going with, their mom's friend, right? Like you need a level of quality that I think is healthy also for the industry.
Are you noticing that this is the time where like the least amount of objections are happening over your commission?
Oh yeah.
Like
100%.
I had, because you mentioned the whole like my cousin, my whatever. I had someone email me a while back. We have their listing, we put it up. But they sent me an email saying, hey, just so you know, I just talked to a family member, whatever, and they're willing to take the listing at 1%.
Oh, what did you say?
And I sat there and I read the email a couple times because I was like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. I'm like, I haven't had this question in a while in this market
Yeah.
of like reduction in commission. And then I sat there and I was like, in a different point in my life, maybe when I was earlier in my career, maybe when I was less experienced, when I didn't know how much money it takes, how many hours it takes to actually move the listing, maybe I would have taken it.
Yeah.
But when I know now how much money I have to put into the property for it to sell in this market, I can't do it at that cost.
Yeah.
So I fully said to them, listen, like I completely respect your decision. If you want to work with them, you can. I just can't do it at that price. It's
Good.
not possible.
I
And
think
they came back and used me.
I think every agent at some point in their career becomes the person who doesn't need, but the person who drives, right? And the minute you're the driver in your own life and business, your life becomes that much more fulfilling. But you have to be honest with yourself, right? Like there have been times where I've done listings for much less than I've wanted to. They're always the worst listings. And you know what? We're not the most expensive. We're definitely not the cheapest, but we're really good at what we do. And I just say it like that. And I'd say most people, once they're out of their kind of like struggling, kind of like getting settled, once they're ready to move upward, they know they get what they pay for.
Yeah.
Right? There's no free lunch, right? Like my economics teacher in university used to say, there's no free lunch. And I'd be like, what does that mean? Right? But now I get it. There's no free lunch.
Yeah. And honestly, like experience pays off in this market.
Oh, yeah.
And like who you hire really does matter in this market. And I tell people too, I'm like in 2021, 2020, you could have hired anyone.
Yes.
You could have put the sign on your lawn and you would have gotten multiple offers and you would have sold.
Yeah.
In this market, it's not that simple. The average day on market is increasing by the day. Condo inventory is at 7 months. How does your property stand out over all the competition? How do we make sure yours sells first? And that's when like you hiring a professional that's been in the industry that knows how to handle this kind of market or handle any market is going to pay off.
Also, Elena, for me, I'm walking away from listings I'm getting. And that's not something that I'm very used to doing, but overall, my quality of life does not need the toxicity of certain people and does not need the toxicity of certain circumstances. There are people who have needed my help, and I'm always ready to sign up. But there's just certain situations where I can't do anything. There's this one property where the mortgage and the property tax owing is more than the market value.
Yeah.
And it's a tough job, but someone's got to tell them the brutal, honest truth. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm sorry that this is the situation you're in. I'm sorry that the property is underwater. At the end of the day, if I sell this property and you want to work out a payment plan with me, we have to pay the co-op commission now. 3 days follow. I think it's 3 days. There's like a new rule. 3 days following, co-op has to go out. So what's your plan? And I also try to lead with the Socratic method. I always tell my team about this. Don't tell anybody anything. Just ask them. Just empower them to answer the questions that you know need to be asked. What's your plan? And when you say what's your plan, they in their own conversation in their head realize that, okay, well, clearly we shouldn't be more underwater. Let the bank take it. Right. I've got another couple divorcing and it's amicable. They have a 4,000 square foot house. They're like, this is how much the mortgage is. I'm like, that's more than we could sell for. And then like, there's 3 on the street for sale. I'm like, I know, the market's just going to get worse. I said, hey, listen, 4,000 square feet, 2 people, 2 cats. I think you got to have space.
Tape.
You know what I mean? Like,
You're gonna go bring some painter's tape in and start splitting up the walls.
they're like, yeah, we just don't like each other anymore. I'm like, sounds like big enough house for 2 people that don't like each other but get along. You know what I mean?
It's very. It's not the first. You're not the first person to tell me people that can't sell and are underwater right now. You have to make a conscious decision. Like, does it make sense for you to sell? Does it make sense for you to hold? Does it make sense for you to rent it out? Like, what does it actually make sense for you to do? And I think when we come in as advisors rather than salespeople, that's when we get the best results.
100%.
Like, it's not going to make or break us selling another home. It won't make or break us. But us establishing a relationship where we're your go-to in the future for anything that you have real estate, we're the go-to for all of your friends. Like, I've walked away from people that have been like, I guess we're not going to sell right now. And I'm like, no problem. You don't have to. Here's all the information. And then I'm like 5 days later, I get a call being like, hey, so-and-so gave me your number and said,
Yes.
you gave me actually
Yes.
good advice. And she's not going to push you to sell. She's not going to push you to do anything. She's going to hear out your problem and help problem solve with you and see if that's the best course.
So we call it integrity-based selling.
Mhm.
And I think the key is when you go to someone's home, if you can actually treat them like a person, not an end, right? In the business, we talk about ends and units and this and that. If you can go there and countless times, Elena, I've walked out without a purchase order and I've gotten a referral. One time in my mind sticks out so strongly. I walked in and it just didn't sound like the right thing to do at the right time. And I picked up at this time, it was a big listing. It's probably my biggest one this year, a $2.9 million listing from those people that didn't sell with me. Right. And you know what? It happens all the time. Right. I don't know how long these podcasts go. We've covered so much good information, but one thing I want to tell you, and I want to just record this, is I think we have a generation just slightly under me with good agents, but certain agents just stick out. And I think where you really stick out is you're the first one to contribute, to lead, to give, to be generous. And people have said that about me, but I see that in you. And I think if that continues to pebble out into the industry, we all do better.
I
Right.
do.
And keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Once again, it's Elena Saradidis. This was Ravi Singh and Property Play. If you like content like this, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe.